Shalom from Jerusalem. This is TV7's Israel at War update. And as we're set to deliberate the latest developments, including the dramatic decision by Jerusalem's security cabinet to possibly reoccupy the Gaza Strip for the purpose of then giving or handing it over to Arab leaders, potentially regional actors, that will not include the Islamist Hamas or the Palestinian Authority. Uh, the situation in Lebanon is also escalating. Some tensions are rising in light of the Lebanese government's decision to move forward with a plan to basically bring about the disarmament of the Iranian proxy, Hezbollah. The Iranians have already responded with Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi saying that it's not going to happen, in his words, but nonetheless, President Trump seems quite adamant to ensure that that would, yes, be the case for the purpose of reinvigorating Lebanese sovereignty over this heavily stricken territory for many decades now. And of course, the Islamic Republic of Iran continues with its rhetoric against Israel, the United States, Europe, and anyone which is not aligned with its anti Western uh, aspirations, so to speak. What is currently the situation vis-a-vis this Ayatollah regime, and where are we heading from here? Before all that, we are, of course, marking today day 672 since the atrocities committed by Hamas. On October 7th of 2023, we always must remember that 50 hostages remain in Hamas captivity to date, up to 20 of them still alive. But unfortunately, as we saw also last Saturday when Hamas released footage of two of the hostages, their conditions are abysmal, to say the least. Let's introduce our two experts for today, to include Brigadier General in Reserve, Yaron Rosen, who formerly served as the IDF Chief of Cyber Staff and Israel Air Force Commander and a helicopter fighter pilot. And next to him, Brigadier General in Reserve Relik Shafir, who also served formerly as an Israel Air Force Commander, a fighter pilot, and a long list of other positions. It's great to see both of you. Uh, General Shafir, I'd like to start with you. A decision has been taken, but there are some mixed messages when we're talking about what actually happened behind closed doors and what are the intentions here in Jerusalem vis-a-vis the Gaza Strip.
There is a friction that has always been between the military command and the political establishment, and this is not different, except that it's more, I would say, media sensitive, since we're living in times when the idea of security of information and leakage of information from political systems or even military systems to the media is much more than it used to be. But having said that, um, the Israeli public is in a position where it is tired of the war and looking for a day after solution. And the politicians are split over what is the day after solution. I think we can quote Netanyahu from yesterday's talk with Fox News that all Israelis are aware that we do not want to stay in Gaza, but rather hand it over to Arab countries such as Egypt or other forces, but not with any Hamas in the within the establishment, not with any Hamas holding any military leeway in Gaza. And since we are not sure that if we withdraw now and let's say ask the Egyptians to step in, they will remove Hamas from power, then Israel must do it itself. And this is the crux of the matter, whether it can be done, whether it can be done and still save the hostages. So that was the major, I would say, conflict between the military and the politicians. And I would say that the decision taken is half and half. That is, strengthen the hold on Gaza in the Gaza area where most of the hostages are held, in the areas that hadn't been taken over before, but not do it in a way that will endanger the hostages in places where we know they are. So it's a half and half decision that goes halfway through to the military's strategy and the overall strategy held by Netanyahu and his right-wing counterparts.
General Rosen, I'd like to hear your take on this. Usually, the directives coming out of the Security Cabinet and the government at large are broader directives. They leave room for interpretation to allow the military to be more realistic in its implementation of the various plans moving forward. But here it seems like the plans were presented quite direct or quite strict within a certain framework. And during the heated deliberations that took place for almost 10 hours, all in all, the Security Cabinet did accept many of the military's positions, at least according to some senior officers in the inner circle, so to speak. And the military is preparing for a scenario in which also Hamas could essentially change its mind and say, we're giving up, we are willing to relocate outside, at least the leadership of Hamas in Gaza, to other locations, and we're going to release the hostages, something that would bring about an immediate halt and will allow a beginning, at least, of a healing process that is really needed, not only for the residents of Gaza, but for the people of Israel as well.
Yeah, what we're seeing now is sort of the end of a huge change in the Middle East, and Gaza is sort of the last piece that everyone wants it to fall in place. And Israel is fighting a very, very complicated war in Gaza, which it may win militarily but lose diplomatically. The question now is not about military gains. It's about a blend between the military gains and the diplomatic high ground, if you will. And it's really important that Israel has some kind of long-term plan, which for 2 years now, it hasn't been stating clearly what is the end game. Although we have been hearing from Netanyahu something which does allude to what Israel wants. It wants to completely eradicate Hamas and then not stay and rule Gaza, but to, as mentioned before, to transfer the control to some kind of other entity, military from the region, whatever force, international force. It is very complicated to make this happen after 2 years. The problem is that the diminishing gains from a military, another military offensive will be very, very small. And also in terms of geography, like the area left, which is not conquered in Gaza, the whole Gaza Strip is approximately 25%, because Israel has conquered and is controlling 75% of the Gaza Strip. So we're talking about very small pockets. So to create this really almost imaginable white flag that would be, somehow someone will come out and wave that flag from the Hamas side is almost impossible. So Israel needs to sort of create this diplomatic leap over it, sort of to ignore this. That's the thing. And the thing is, to do that, Israel has to be very creative, not only on the military side, which is almost impossible to do today, but on the diplomatic side. To gain the high ground on the diplomatic side, to weigh sort of balance the pressure on the military side, which is almost impossible to push forward. We have to somehow create this narrative and build this narrative that Israel has won the war in Gaza as well. And that is with something that we have spoken time and again about the wider outcome of the regional war, which is one of this parts can be recognizing the eastern border of Israel. Imagine if Israel tomorrow says, "Okay, we agree to the end of the war. We agree to go to the outside to the Gaza border with the zone that Israel has security zone, and Israel won recognition of its eastern border." Wouldn't that be an amazing deal, both diplomatically, and we get the hostages, and we get a good story? That's the type of creativity that we need at the point in time that we are now.
Absolutely. Well, there are roughly 16 or 17 terror groups designated as such by various countries around the world in the Gaza Strip operating there. One of those groups is the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine. And this group is operating also throughout the region, in Europe, in the United States, and elsewhere, in different forms, in different formats. But nonetheless, over the last 24 hours, we saw a very successful, actually, the last 12 hours, we saw a very successful targeted strike by Israel in the Bekaa of Lebanon, where they eliminated a senior operative of the PFLP, which was in charge of cooperating and coordinating between this Palestinian terror group and the RGC Quds Force and Hezbollah and other Iranian militias. What can we what can you explain to us more about the severity of the continued efforts by those type of Palestinian terror groups to prepare some sort of confrontation against Israel following those 2 years of vigorous fighting on so many fronts? General Shafir, is this just going to be just another type of mow the grass policy on a regional scale?
Well, you know that these terror groups have some internal logic of their own. They need to hold their own, they need to be financed, and they need to show their supporters, being proxies of larger or stronger groups such as the IRGC, that they're alive and they're ready to strike if need be. And so they need to show that they're active. And by showing that they are so, they may gain support rather than, let's say, Hezbollah, which has been beaten down pretty badly. And so they all vie for recognition to their activities as splinter groups, ideological, military, or even tribal. Remember that the Middle East nowadays looks more like the biblical area that is mentioned 2,500 years ago, where there are different tribes vying for position and control. And let me quote a saying in Arabic: "Me and my brother against our cousin, me and my cousin against the world." So there is no real national identity in this area of the world that hasn't gone through an emancipation process such as the one that took place in Europe in the 18th and 19th centuries. So we're back, even in Syria itself, to tribal friction, and except for the fact that they're holding weapons, and part of them even UAVs and ability to launch rockets and missiles. And so that is today what we have to deal with and look at when we're hearing such events taking place in the Bekaa Valley, which is the hub of Hezbollah and other places. So while Hezbollah is looking to stay in power in Lebanon, as the government of Lebanon is pressing for it to remove its control of weapons and give it to the hands of the Lebanese army. All these splinter groups are, I guess, may join together to repel the pressure on Hezbollah. So maybe look at the this Bekaa operation as part and parcel of the rivalries and on the one hand, and the cooperation between those terror groups on the other hand.
So yesterday in Beirut, we did see in the Dahya, which is Hezbollah's main stronghold in the Lebanese capital, hundreds going to the streets with Hezbollah flags, with Iran flags, pledging to fight if a Lebanese attempt would be made to disarm this Iranian proxy. We saw, in response, the Lebanese army going out to the streets and breaking up some of those protests. And yet, the big question mark is, do we see a scenario in which the Lebanese army could, in fact, bring about such a dramatic shift that would really alter the composition of this country from the very lows that it has experienced in the last 40 to 50 years, General Rosen?
Yeah, I think what we're seeing are signs that, even Lebanon is trying to step out of Iran's shadow, like really trying to do that. And I think for a state that has shown weakness time and again, it is a turning point for this country. And, it's really hard to say exactly what will happen, but this resolution, which actually implements things that were decided upon twice, at least, from what we talk about, the end of the 80s, the Taif Agreement, and then after the war in 2006 as well. This is not just symbolic. It really reflects rising internal frustration in Lebanon, especially after the war and what happened to Hezbollah. And it shows where people really want to go. Now, this is a huge opening for Israel and the West, and there is a chance to help Lebanon shift direction toward a sovereign and a unified government. How long this will take really, really lies upon so many other things. What will happen inside Syria? How much instability will Syria reflect towards Lebanon? Because it has been a source of instability. How Israel quietly helps Lebanon to downgrade and continues to do that, as you mentioned about the targeted attack in the Bekaa Valley. Israel is actually, that's what it's doing. Daily, since the ceasefire, it is hitting again and again people, weapon stashes, and their efforts to rebuild their Hezbollah's capabilities. So by doing that, Israel is trying to help and give time to this new government to lift its head and politically fix the cohesion which is needed for a sovereign country. And I think if we succeed in doing that with some patience and other things that have to happen in other fronts, we might even see a stable Lebanon someday.
Well, that's what we're praying for. Particularly, the Lebanese people are amazing people, and I think they're also very similar to the Israeli people in many cultural aspects. And if any country would be compatible with Israel in the region, that would be Lebanon, which is an understatement. I will point out that it's quite remarkable since the 27th of November of last year, when Hezbollah capitulated and agreed to a ceasefire with Israel. Israel has been effectively occupying southern Lebanon with 5 strategic plateaus, still heavily fortified by the IDF, with near daily strikes against Hezbollah terror operatives seeking to rehabilitate the devastation of this Iranian proxy. And it seems like everybody's on board with this, so long as there is a process that is understood. In contrast to the Gaza Strip, where Israel seeks to do pretty much the same, just to bring about a process which would once and for all bring about security for the state of Israel, where our children and grandchildren will not have to fight yet another monstrous form of Hamas launching the butchery and savagery that was shown on October 7th. And that is something that, of course, needs to include a political transition that is viable in the context of Arab culture, not Western culture, Arab culture, with emphasis on that, which does not always have many similarities, despite the perceptions that we see in European capitals and even in North America and elsewhere. We have roughly 5 minutes, and therefore I'd like to transition to Iran. The Iranians seem to be battered, but they keep seeing also additional fires erupting, RGC officers being eliminated, and other type of attacks that the Iranians are just dealing with or coping with on a daily basis. General Shafir, what can you tell us about that, and to what degree is the sequence of exchanges between Israel and Iran drawing near to yet another exchange?
I think there's a conflict that was under the table, a covert conflict for many, many years between Israel and Iran that had little or no cover in the media at all. And obviously, in the last 2 years, it escalated and culminated in the June short 12-day war between Israel and Iran. And now the Iranians, who are to be considered as good chess players and even better bazaar buyers and sellers, are trying to handle the disparity between internal politics. Remember that half of Iran's population isn't really Iranian, but from other nationalities in the area who do not have a particular, particularly good relationship with the regime itself. Remember also that Iran is undergoing this year with a severe drought to the point that there's water rations in Tehran itself, in the southern part of Iran. And when the king is weak, obviously everybody's vying for positions of power in different areas. And this is what happens in Iran at this time. It's probably even easier to recruit in Iran forces against the regime itself, easier than it was before. And so we're seeing internal wars within Iran between the IRGC and splinter groups within Iran itself. They're very worried about the Russian support and their ability to garner support from Russia to Iran itself, whether be it fighter airplanes that they would like to have or missiles, ground to air missiles such as the S-400 that they were supposed to get and they're not getting. And so they're in a very delicate position, and that holds against the pressure from the United States, from President Trump, who promised them another showdown if they don't come to terms on the nuclear deal. Pressure from Europe and their own pride, and they said it out loud. Our we are proud of what we did with the nuclear program, and we're not going to go back on it. So, how do you eat the cake and have it too? That is a problem they have now, so they're playing for time. But I wouldn't be surprised if they lower their animosity and come to the table and try to get the talks with the United States a long and tedious one, maybe until the end of President Trump's term.
General Rosen, you have 30 seconds to round up the Iranian issue.
Very basically, Iran is bleeding from the inside, but we should not mistake that for surrender. They're far from it. Their silence is tactical. They need to take care of multiple internal crises, and they need to take care of their own legitimacy from within while they are fighting on the under war threshold with Israel and the United States. I think that if we need to strike a diplomatic deal now, and we may see Tehran go back to the table, but also be very much ready for a second round with Iran.
Well, the Iranians are great at negotiating for the sake of negotiations. But this is all the time that we have for today. I'd like to thank General Relik Shafir and General Yaron Rosen for all of your insights today. I'd like to thank all of you at home as well. Until our next edition, from here in Jerusalem, wishing you a Shabbat Shalom. For more of TV7's productions and editorials, we invite you to visit our website at www.tv7israelnews.com.